Okay, I think everyone is here who's here. I did want to go through your minutes to remind myself of some things in there. Um, Did anyone else look at the minutes?
No, I didn't.
Any comments that you want? Okay. I'm not sure that I have any corrections. I was mainly looking at it to remind me of what I was supposed to do and had completely forgotten.
I know one of them was the Durham committee connection for those PDFs we found.
Right, so I did send an email off to my contact in the energy committee there this morning.
I count a day out.
And I have not heard back. I'm assuming that it will be fine, and if not, we'll have to come up with something else. Like I said, we're not going to go through the education stuff today. I mainly want Leah to, fill us in as best she can on what she does, how she does it, what accounts there are, and what skills we should be looking for a replacement.
I have a couple of replacement suggestions.
Cool.
Like people who might be interested in are, I think, qualified.
Good. Let's do that when we get down
Yes,
to
of
it.
course.
I thought there was something else in here. Let's see. No, maybe it was just checking with the committee on that. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sorry. Yeah. Were you here last week?
I was in the hospital last week.
Oh, that's right. My sympathies for whatever that was or whoever that was.
She's good.
Good. Was it a ski accident?
Yeah.
I figured since it was up there, that might have been.
Convinced me that if I'm gonna have some quick physical fracture, I wanna go to Mount Washington Hospital, where they know what they're doing.
Well, they probably have enough experience
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
probably a comment.
I see a lot of it.
We had discussed the snow retention system damage. Is there anything that we need to know or do about what's going on with that?
We found another product, I forget what it's called, but it's actually a little tab that goes up between the panels and snaps into place. And the issue with that is too much weight above one set of retention just wasn't gonna work. So the
Right.
better way to do it is to actually put retention between the panels and it'll keep the snow up there and
And it won't
because
have
that's so much weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty easy to do.
Do you have to pull the panels to do
I
that?
don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think they slide in and twist or something.
That would be very good.
Yeah, so that's on the plan for the spring.
Great, good. That's good to know. I can't find anything else that I need to talk about, so we'll accept the minutes as they are. Thank you. I don't know if any of you looked at that document from Henry. I don't know if it actually was clear that this is from Henry, but it is. And it explains what's going on. We spoke last week about Brian Kalman stepping down. And on reading this and Henry's letter, I realized that there was probably more going on behind the scenes than I realized. I mean, I thought that they would concentrate more on the biomass facility and that falling through and how that basically, caused a cascade of events that meant that the financials were bad. But the other thing that happened was that the risk management policies of the coalition require certain hedging take place at certain amount of time before, a given month. And apparently those had been slipping for a while. And I think that what actually happened was that Clifton Belo realized at some point that things were pretty badly out of whack. And at that point, he realized something needed to be done, and we called for an emergency meeting of the board, closed session. And I have a feeling
Was
that
it fun?
that was an indication of what was probably going on at that time.
That
So
was prior to the biomass mess or?
yes, it was at least a month before that. And there may have been some indications that the biomass project was in more trouble than I was aware of. And possibly that figured into the whole thing as well. So anyway, this is sort of an explanation of what Henry is doing on a temporary basis. He's acting as the general manager. I think that's his official title now. What the transition means, what the status of the joint reserves are, which is they still have like $4 million or $5 million. But they had to spend a lot out of the reserves, 8 million. So that tells you that if there's 5 million left and they had to pull 8 million, they were in a pretty serious position.
Not great.
Yeah. And
But they planned ahead and they had research.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
they did, and what they put in place, although they had to exceed the rate of all the utilities, what they put in place was agreeable to their funder from who buys from New England ISO. Which meant that they were willing to extend credit if it was required.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it's very easy to make these things sound extremely serious, and it was serious, but it wasn't life. I don't want to give that impression. So that's where we are now. I don't think there was anything else that was of particular interest in here. I think it's all stuff you know about. Any questions on any of that? No. As far as the legislation went, the Energy Forward Act, which they were really counting on, this was a collection of bills. Some of the more significant ones would have disallowed the utilities from, now that the utilities are having to bid on the spot market and they might underestimate what they need, they have a policy that the PUC was encouraging where they can recover costs if they underestimate from the entire rate base, not just their rate base. So we would be subsidizing.
What?
Oh, you didn't hear this?
No.
Oh, yeah, no, it's really outrageous.
For huge.
Yeah, and there were some other ones. Time of day metering was in there. There was a whole collection of things. Being able to have reconciliation so that net metering would work for third parties and for community power. All of that was ruled inexpedient to legislate. The comments from the Science and Technology Committee were that they wanted the PUC to deal with these issues. They didn't feel that they wanted to legislate.
Was
So-
that on the floor though, or just in the committee?
It was in committee.
Yeah, because it still goes to the floor. So,
Oh, will it go to? the-
yeah, it's a funny quirk about New Hampshire, unless it's like, 15 to zip, 14 to 1 or something, it will take it up on the floor. So,
They'll see that it's was ruled
Yeah,
inexpedient to legislate,
but
but
it's, that's usually when it's like a party line vote.
interesting.
It's probably like 9 to 6 or something.
I don't know what the vote was. I didn't look that carefully. I thought it was
Yeah.
dead. I mean, from the letter that I got from Dina something, I can't remember her name. But she's the one, their legislative policy expert. And it sounded like she was sort of saying,
It's not good.
No, I mean, it's probably, given the balance in the House, it's unlikely that it will pass, but it was a party line vote.
But, a lot depends on who's there that day. And, people aren't always predictable. It's funny.
Yeah, no, and in fact, there were, I believe, 2 Republican members voted in favor, which is pretty
That's
good.
encouraging
Yeah.
for that committee. They're pretty pretty bad generally. It's just.
Yeah.
Always been the case.
But you hadn't heard about this?
No.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of issues. It started with Eversource. They undercollected $6 million from their commercial accounts, and then those were going to be spread over the stranded charges costs. You heard? Yeah, and all of this, the PUC is actually speaking in favor of this. They're asking for this to be done. But then dockets were opened opposing this, and I
You
don't know.
justify just not billing your customers what you're supposed to bill them.
Well, it's not only justifying that, it is encouraging them to underbid, because then it will be spread across a rate base that their customers will pay less. It's ridiculous. No, it's really an outrageous
But
situation.
it's not surprising for the PUC.
No.
I guess it's not.
Not this group.
Anyway, that's all I had for Community Power Coalition this time. Leah, let's just get through some of this other stuff. Cindy, are you still interested in doing the Sol Smart stuff? Because you're clearly not being included on these.
Yeah, I was like, what is he talking about? So yes, and I don't, well, let me see, it's Vanessa,
Vanessa is in and I'm in, but you need to get in touch with.
who's the chief honcho, I can't remember.
I can't bring my mail up now because
okay.
of this, but I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You should get in touch with her.
I've been avoiding this, but I should stick in this too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll send you and Cindy both the contact.
Thank you, Paul. I don't know what happened there, because well, no, I don't know.
Doesn't really matter. They did do, so the first step in this was that they reviewed the Barrington solar zoning ordinance. And they create, I don't know how much of this was done automatically, but they did a good document on what was good, what aligns with their recommendations, and I separated out what does not. And I'm not going to go through it here. A lot of stuff does align. There are a number of things that don't. They have issues with, I mean, I remember you talking about reflections being a big issue. Those are in our zoning. They said there's absolutely no place for those. Those should be removed. The visibility
Paul, just to
issues.
clarify that reflections in theory cause a problem, and therefore that has to be taken into account when planning on.
Yeah, it
Okay.
requires a study. And they said the only time that should be an issue is if you're right near an airport.
Okay.
And again, that's only if it's actually on airport property.
That might be, we're not
That's the
not
FAA.
concerned with that, so.
Okay.
Then there were some other things. We do have a requirement in there, I believe, that they can't be visible from the road and things like that. They said these aesthetic guidelines.
Literally not enforced, or I don't know.
Well, it's not for this is for ground mount commercial systems.
Okay.
Okay.
It
So,
shouldn't be visible.
well, that's what's in our ordinance, and that's inappropriate. I mean, how many towns do you drive through now where you see arrays on, that are town, usually they're municipal arrays.
Yeah, or you see an ugly ass parking lot or anything else, so who cares?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other part of it, is what other things in town are unsightly that they don't have any regulations about it. Anyway, that's the kind of thing they went through.
That's cool.
This is
I
on,
would like to read that.
I created a new project. It's on the share under projects. It's called Sol Smart. There are 3 documents in there. One is this document, which is the total report. The other is So the document we were just looking at was the zoning review. What you might want to look at, I created a document called non-compliance where I extracted the sections which didn't meet, well, it's not required, it's the recommendations. So
Yeah.
this is something that was worth going through. It also references by section number the sections in our solar ordinance that are in question and which they'd like to change. Now, I think that the process, the Sol Smart process over the next 4 months, something like that, are that we will be working on the modifications to that zoning ordinance. One thing that's missing in here is there's no specifications for battery storage, and I definitely want to have them address that, because I think any solar ordinance that does not include storage nowadays is already out of date.
Yep.
And certainly in the future, we want it to not have to go back and do it
Right,
in
right.
3 years.
I didn't look to see if they're, they had been talking about a checklist for the town, and it sounds like our town hasn't been very overly cumbersome in that regard. That might not be the case for commercial systems. Do you know, have you done commercial in Barrington?
Just this. No, I don't think it's overly restrictive. I mean, I've worked in a lot of towns that are bad. Right now, it's not bad. Oh, yeah. I mean, Freedom, for instance, sticks to that not visible from the road thing.
Yeah, well, we don't have any commercial here in Barrington, so
Well, that was
they
in residential.
oh,
So
really?
there are towns that are
Not
not
saying.
saying.
If I'm burned out band, it's fine. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's not a lot of really bad zoning that I've run into. But I'm working mostly in small towns.
Well, you would be valuable to have in this
Yeah.
conversation. That would be really good. The other document in here is a spreadsheet that they clearly use for tracking all this. And it's very complex until you realize what it is, and then it's not. It's not that complex. They have it split up into a few it looks very different when you bring it up in a local application. And this is basically the certification checklist. These are all of the things that you have to do to comply and get your certificate. And some of them we passed, like, what is this one? Feasibility analysis for solar PV on government facilities. Well, they think we've done that, which is interesting. I don't really think we have. I mean, we've done it for one building.
Yeah.
I don't think that really counts as everything. But when you go through here, there's, the ones that are in white, we have not done, which is most of them, as you would
Right.
expect. There's a bunch of things on community engagement. We get some bonus points for community power. I mean, all of this is aimed at how do you encourage residents and businesses to adopt solar. So it will be good to go through this. I think this training will be good. And this stuff is worth looking at. It's helpful. It's a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about in these meetings. And they have concrete suggestions on how you go about doing this. Of course, this requires that someone have the time to do that. That's a problem. Okay, that's the Sol Smart review. Like I said, the education topics we'll do at the next meeting. Library and rec center updates. Are you going to go tomorrow morning? You're not, okay. So tomorrow morning, there is a walkthrough with any contractors who would like to bid on this project. I am going to go in Jack's stead because he's going to be out of town. And my main purpose in going is to make sure that if any contractors show up, I don't know, none of you, well, Cindy, you've probably seen the RFP and the letter. No.
No, I'm
Okay.
not.
I had,
Oh, you mean with the RFP
for the library.
Oh, yes, I have. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the rec center for a second.
Did you see the cover letter?
Yeah,
Okay, I was not happy with that. I thought if I had gotten that cover letter as a contractor, I might well have said, I'll go to this meeting because I want to bid on this. I would not have understood what they meant by a donation in kind. Or if I did understand, I might have said, yeah, I'll donate a few things for it.
didn't she say a substantial donation or something?
She might have said
I
something.
don't
She
think-
changed the wording to beef
she?
it up a bit, yeah.
So what I would have said in that case would have been appropriate, would be on the, with the value of $40,000, which another bidder has.
So, I believe it said a substantial donation from a, current bidder.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think it's defined substantial, and that's because that's,
Well, what I am going to do is if any other bidders are there tomorrow, and what's the name of the general contractor?
Bowen,
Bowen has said the same thing. They did not feel that that was fair. They felt that that was.
I don't disagree with you. I didn't write the letter, and, you know,
Well, I actually had
yeah, you
had
were
been
clear.
involved in this.
Yeah.
And I'm unhappy with what they did. And my intent at this walkthrough tomorrow is to let any of the other contractors know that Jack had proposed to do this at his cost.
Yep.
And that was effectively what he was contributing.
Yep.
And that if they didn't feel like doing that, something on that order,
Then
then
they
they
should
should
just walk
not.
away. I don't disagree with you. I think the town's concern, which was what Susan's, they like required that there was,
I don't have a problem with them requiring the bidding. I mean, if that turned out to be the easiest way to do it, so be it. But you've got to be honest with the.
yeah, I
people.
don't know why, I can't comment on why it was decided to do it that way, because I wasn't included.
It's not legality. I can tell you that because you.
Oh, I didn't think it was. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I honestly am not sure why that is. I wasn't party to that.
I'm very disturbed by that. And, that's why I intend to go and make sure that, and my hope is that. no
I don't
one's
think
gonna-
anybody's gonna show up, would be my guess. Because the requirements for the timeline were so fast too.
Is that usually how it works, where they have to show up in person to do the walkthrough and bid?
No,
It's
we
optional.
didn't do that here. We didn't do that for the
we
town.
suggested it. But lots of bids that we get require showing up. I've never tested.
To all show up on the same day like an open
Yeah,
house.
I've never tested whether you didn't show up, you could still bid, however. I tested it this time though.
Yeah,
I guess I had two problems with it. The first one was,
Contractors don't like to be
are you
the same
really
as
asking other bidders to make in-kind contributions and why? What's the justification for even asking?
Well, so I think that was the attempt at transparency.
yeah. That I agree.
It's a kind of a weird, like good weird, but good. It is a little bit of a weird situation that they really just didn't have any. No one's ever done something that nice, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So I think it was just like I said, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the way I think this should have been done is, I don't think this should have been left to Susan. It was too complicated.
She did not want to do it,
Yeah, it should have been handled by Connor.
and that was an absolute no. And Susan was very clear, I do not feel comfortable doing this. I haven't done this kind of thing before.
And I don't understand why.
And I don't either. But anyway, that was the decision. And Susan had to do it in a weekend.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Okay,
Whatever.
done with that. That is what it is, and we'll see how it comes out tomorrow. So Leah, I am going to turn it over to you. Do you want to project?
Yeah.
Stop sharing. You got it.
when is your last?
Just need another one. So that's my last usual meeting.
Okay.
Guess will be okay, I promise. My parting gift is up to you. Oh, I think I need to go on the meeting here.
Are there formal meetings for the rec center? Like, what is happening?
No, there's not.
There's no building committee?
It's too bad Jim isn't here tonight because he could address that. And we ask him every time and
Yeah,
every,
can we go to those meetings?
yeah, and every time he says, nothing's happening.
Would it help if there was like a formal
Oh,
written
that was it.
request? Like, I don't mind writing to them and saying, part of the reason this grant, very, very diplomatically, part of the reason this grant was awarded because of the energy audit that showed that the building needed a lot of work. We really feel an energy person should be here.
Yeah, who would you write it to? I don't know even who to write it to.
I guess tennis, the head honcho over there.
It's quite the appropriate name.
Isn't it? Yeah. And I was for veterinarian, so that might help. I can reach out to her.
Yeah,
I think we should be participating.
Like, I feel weird that we're not there.
My understanding was they literally have not been having meetings. Isn't that what you got from what?
So how are they making decisions?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because Jim isn't, he's involved. I
Yeah.
think they're making ad hoc decisions with outside of meetings. That pretty much is work going on there?
Not apparently.
No.
I think they got a full delay, didn't they? Didn't they get a delay till fall or something on the money?
They did get a delay. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
they
till
can't,
when.
the delay doesn't, like, they still, it would be weird if they weren't planning at this point, I think.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, I think you write in a letter, let's see if we can get in there.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll help move them into
Meeting.
planning mode or something.
Or, who knows, maybe they're having some meetings that are just so informal, they didn't think to, but can you do that? You have to announce them, right? I don't know.
Right. Let's face it, the meetings that I hold here do not strictly abide by the right to know laws. Are we still sending the minutes to, we are. So we are doing that. But, I'm not doing parliamentary procedure or even an approximation of it.
Yeah, but if it's not an official committee, right, it's just employees.
True, maybe that's what the deal is. And that maybe they don't need to do any of that.
Once they form a committee, then they might have to.
Right. But yes, write a letter.
Better.
Let us know how that comes out. All yours, Lee. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, so I took basically all of our pages that we have currently, put them into a Word doc, put track changes on it, and made edits to most of them, and then started a draft for like a new energy education page. I know sounds like you want to discuss those more in detail, which I think is totally worth it. I kind of slapped them on haphazardly to make it easier later on if you want me to start with that, but I'm just gonna go through here. So on the home page, most of that's staying the same, the top there, a few small edits. Can you guys see that okay? Red. Splitting out current committee goals and then having, don't ask for my accomplishments further down.
Mhm.
So the handful of 2024, handful of 2023, and a link to the town reports. That just goes to the main town report. It's not specific to our section, but
Anybody can
more education. the
file
better.
through it, yeah.
So that's why I added that current goals. So these ones still relevant.
So, as opposed to the ones we're giving up on.
More like ones that are finished, or like community power doesn't need to have all that information anymore. Simplifying it to just serve as representatives for it. And still putting the links there, although I don't know that that's necessary either.
Which,
We got a delay here.
oh yeah, don't look at that. Look at your screen.
Yeah, but then I'm talking too far ahead.
Oh.
So we still have the learn more links there. Those could potentially go away too, because it's not really a big issue anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I might cut those because they're linked everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's taking up space.
And people, it's pretty highly unlikely people are gonna take deep dives for this, you know?
True.
Yeah, it has its own page, so.
Since you've got the weatherization assistance, there was something that as a sidebar, you weren't at the last meeting, Cindy, or we tried, but it
Yeah.
didn't work. One thing that we realized is we have assumed that the funding was canceled.
Well, Betsy
for the
said
community block grant.
it was, but if it changed, she would relook at it.
So the question is, had the grant money been allocated already? She probably knows to look into this. If the money was allocated, there was a ruling that it has to be dispersed.
Okay.
So that was all.
I gotta write myself another note. Excuse me.
All grant money?
No, this was specifically in regard to,
30 block grants.
I think it was the community block grant.
Thought you were gonna make my day better.
No, Jack, I'm not.
So keeping the weatherization and collaboration with the SAU office the same, because it's still kind of pending stuff. I took out the survey because it's complete, and that's where I thought to do an accomplishments area instead.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
To kind of brag a little bit about what we've done, and these, I think I actually did update the wording to be more in line with exactly what the town report says. So there's shouldn't be a whole lot of differences there. One question I have is about the survey that we did. If we want to share a summary of results.
I would prefer not to.
No.
I mean, if someone asks, they're obviously entitled to look.
If we have my detailed summary, Cindy made a higher level summary.
Well, I made a big picture, so. Higher level. That's nice.
Anyone who requests that is welcome to it. I don't want to
Okay, so we
put
have,
that up because
Yeah.
the response wasn't large enough. I think
Right.
my concern is that people are going to look at the results and go, oh, well, you have to do this because that was in the
Yeah.
results of your survey. And that's not what it was for.
Yeah, it wasn't scientific or,
Right.
you know, it's not a broad cross section.
Right.
Shouldn't we be bragging in 2024 about creating a website that's a resource for energy issues?
Yes, we should.
say that again?
We should be bragging about the fact that you have created
Oh,
a community resource. That should be part of our
Uh,
2024 accomplishments. Website,
I think that was 2020. I think that's in 2023.
is it? As long as it's in there.
Yeah.
It
that was in the-
it was continuous. It's been, yeah, and I
Like
want you to
expand.
realize that this is a big part
Yeah.
of what needs to be done in SolveSmart. The website is a huge part of that. So kudos.
Oh. I did talk to Tiffany. So Tiffany, Connor, or there's another woman's name I didn't recognize. Can do web updates. Wants to. All right, so no summary of the survey. That makes total sense. Continue. All right, so that was it for the homepage. You can look at it without the markup to see what you think. Welcome, current goals, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you're ahead.
Yeah.
More blah, blah. Just a page, and I think we're all listed at the bottom. Just, I didn't put that on here.
You mean in the report?
I didn't put it on the Word doc.
That's fine. Yeah, that was, I wrote the town report, so that stuff just had to be in there.
All right, so next, the community power page edits, again, because we've done a lot. We were very detailed in our progress when we first made the page, but now that it's all kind of said and done with, kind of adjusted it to be more like past tense.
Yeah.
When it was launched, when it was voted in, and I kind of took everything else out.
what's still there?
So the first sentence, and then,
Have you done this already? Is this?
No.
Oh, okay.
no, that's what I can work on
Okay.
after we agree on stuff. So kept that first line in. I took out that second one of 50 communities because
Yeah, it's changing.
it changes every day.
And it actually is going to stop changing. Well, obviously now they can't do any new enrollment because the rate is higher than the utility. So that's closed. And I believe even for the next rate period, they might have decided that they're not going to do any new enrollments.
What I think is really impressive, don't know if it makes sense to, it's probably not a way to emphasize it here, is regardless of whether their rate is slightly higher than Eversource right now, Eversource rates magically dropped 70%.
I'm getting your voice.
Okay. And well, I think that it shows that it created market pressure.
Did you see that in the Stratford Regional Planning Commission meeting? There was a presentation that I made for that. There were some good drawings in there showing the price pressure that the creation of community power had caused in New Hampshire. Did you see any of that?
A recent meeting?
This was the meet. You didn't come. This was
Gotcha. I don't know that. Oh, I don't know. I can't look at that then.
okay.
Yeah, I think we.
That I'll
Pictures, yeah.
send you a link to
Okay.
that. There's at least one PowerPoint presentation and then one picture that I think was very good and should be on the community power page. Let's see.
All right, so just kind of de-emphasizing that it's not new anymore.
Yeah.
Took off the handout that we did. That's not necessary anymore.
Right.
I kept the public hearing presentation.
Yeah.
That's
like
not,
documentation.
yeah. And then
And all the plans and whatever.
request for approval. Town of Barrington docket page. That probably doesn't need to be on there anymore.
No,
but
that
again, it's
doesn't
kind
need
of
to
like-
be on there.
All right, take out that one.
The aggregation plan absolutely has to be,
Okay.
it's a good idea for the public hearings. The request for approval, I don't remember what that is. Oh, that was to the select board?
Yeah.
I think that was to the select board. That doesn't have to be in there.
Okay. Down to 3 links there. And then more information on community power. I took off some of these, we're old.
Yeah, they're old.
Um,
You think the what is community power is still good?
I think that's fine because that's very introductory.
Okay.
There are gonna be new people that, aren't familiar with it, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe
people that move into town and people, yeah.
growing.
So I
Yeah.
figured I'd rather direct people to the CPCNH and community power things instead of hearing it from us and have it be outdated. Took off the February update because they stopped doing quarterly updates. Those were nice summaries and I stopped doing them.
Yeah, I know.
And then the FAQ page kept that. So yeah, basically simplifying all the community power stuff since we made it happen.
Yeah, that needed to be thinned out. Good.
Rates, images, I was going to take off the February to March one. We're done.
Well,
Or no.
actually,
Keep it.
that's sort of a question. Should we have, well, this drawing I have would show historically what the rate has been. I was just wondering if we should have a historic, what have the rates been over time?
I think that would be more helpful. Yeah, I'd rather
Yeah.
do that.
So they know that it hasn't always been screwed up.
And then still have the upcoming
Right.
rates through July.
We're in that rate period. Is there any mention of the issues that caused the current rate dilemma, because we probably need.
I think
to have
that's what
something
that
about
first,
Actually, Leah, you don't have, we're gonna have to figure out how to get this stuff in, so we.
I think that's it, that file about the rate change.
Okay, February 1st. It's not, because it actually was an emergency rate change. The February through, for the month of February was what they had agreed upon in 2024. And then they ended up changing from March through July is the new rate. So
I still, that might be something.
oh, you,
about it,
you,
though, I
right,
think.
you wrote February, so it may be March 1st through July.
Has the coalition put out something? I mean, I just saw.
Yes, yes, they have.
The new,
And if you go to the sign up page where the rate is,
Yeah.
that's all correct. That's
Yeah.
all current.
yeah, as far as verbiage, so. Explanation out.
I don't think there's been a news release. Well, what I just showed you may actually have been a news release. I'm not sure whether that was only internal. or
Yeah,
not.
the one I saw just talked about, a change in leadership.
I haven't, did you see that on some of the public network?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. It's looking, Jim, we have questions for you, but we'll get to that.
So
Welcome.
I was over talking to my boss. Oh, what about tonight?
Okay,
So I'll double check on what this PDF is and if it mentions the reasons for the rate change. I want to say that it did, because we debated not putting it up at all. And you thought it needs to be there.
okay. Yeah, I do.
I could be
It
wrong.
needs to be there.
All right. So we have the current rates and then also this other chart
Which,
is coming.
wow, this is really slow.
That we
Oh,
have.
commercial monthly, yeah.
That's not the one that you were thinking of though for your presentation, right?
No.
I can picture that one now. So keeping that up there. And then I was thinking, we had like a separate news section on the community power page, which makes like 3 areas for news. I thought that was a little excessive.
I don't remember this.
Well, we have in the news here, there's a couple articles about community power specifically. And then we have more news on, we have an energy news page. And then we also have news and announcements on the right sideline.
Oh, really?
So I think could get kind of lost
Yes.
having these ones here. And these are all, again. kind
We
of
have
older
one
stuff anyways.
specifically, a whole category for community
I think
power?
we did because we were trying to,
Yeah, I
Before people
think
look
it's
it up.
time to get rid of that.
yeah, okay. Right, that's good. All right, so then I think these are all kind of the same documents that are linked in different areas that end up being attached at the bottom for some of them. So I don't know that we need some of these either.
Well, especially if they're duplicating a link that was mentioned previously.
I think some of them, it like puts it on there automatically. If it's a document, like it adds it to the bottom.
Oh, okay. I see.
But maybe I'll just figure that out, which ones we're getting rid of up top to make sure that's taken out at the bottom.
Yeah, that, of course, yeah, that does look like, that is the same set from above.
I think so.
Actually, I don't remember that customer notification. That looks different, so I don't know.
That one, I think we had it at one point, the very top of the page. We already took down a while ago.
Oh, do we? Commencement of service. I don't think we need that anymore. It's happened a while ago and it's just sort of a done deal at this point.
That's good. Right. So that was it for the community power page. Again, kind of simplifying because it's voted in. All right, so next is the energy news page. So I know Doug's always very good about bringing us current articles about things. So I put 3 new ones up there that are from the past 2 months, from February, March, that we talked about. And I took off the other ones. They were like 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's not really news.
Yeah. Yeah.
So scroll back up, you can see the 3 new ones.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's good. You might want to get rid of the P before CP. Oh, that's Portsmouth Community Power.
It is.
Okay.
Should I spell that out? That's what the article title was.
No, if anyone knows what PCP is, they can get a good laugh out of it.
Primary position. All right, and then other news, same thing. Took down some of the older ones that were from last year and put up this one new one that we have. And any others that we might think of.
So how much negative stuff do we want to put up?
And that's the yeah, we just leave it.
Because, I mean, most of what's going to go up now is not good.
Well, I think it's good to have information.
I do too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, this is what's happening.
Although I have to say, I'm not reading the news very much lately.
I am, don't do it.
I read the headlines and go, no, I don't need to read that.
All right, so that kind of simplifies, updates our news page. And then the energy resources and tax credits is its own page. And I might still need to do some work on this to make sure all the links work. Because it was really funny, some of the federal ones, the links didn't work. And
Well,
I found the link and all they did was change the underscore to a dash.
Seriously.
And it still existed. I had to go back and dig for it.
well,
And they were still there.
a lot of them are, some of them
That's encouraging.
are, which is very frustrating, are not. Well, Doug had sent that in the news for today. We'll get to some of that.
So yeah, I didn't go through all of these.
Do we have anything about the town policies on?
Yes.
Okay, where is that? Because they raised that in the review of the solar zoning.
Okay.
And they knew that the town did have a policy, but it sounded like we weren't pointing at it or something. I'm not sure.
Reworded some of these rebates and things. And because we're adding a new education page, I took off like the general tips and moved it to the new page.
Yeah.
Trying to keep this.
Oh,
one
so the
more
green
about-
stuff is relocated and the red stuff is dropped.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I know Paul, you brought up making sure that we're clear in people being qualified to get some of these things like assistance. Right. And I think some of these pages, it's a whole bunch of options. And they do mention pretty clearly that you need to
Have to qualify.
have to qualify. So I think most of the way it's written was actually okay.
We can't reproduce all of that stuff. I mean, some of it is going to have to be left up to the homeowners, renters, businesses. And if someone wants to contact us and ask for help, it hasn't happened yet, so I don't think we're going to be overwhelmed. They're welcome to do so. Maybe we should state that somewhere.
Yeah, that's actually what I was wondering about, was having more of an introductory paragraph for this page to consider just directions on. It's just a resource list and do your own research in a nice way.
Yeah, that is the best we can do, to be honest. But to say so, there's nothing wrong with saying so.
I think I just reworded some of these, like the New Hampshire Saves ones, more specifically for residential versus businesses. Then we had the same link basically for the energy savings hub. We had it listed twice, and I could see why, because it was there's rebates and tax credits.
Yeah.
They're so closely related. It's like one page for both, but I moved it just to be one.
Oh, you put it up into the upper category, pulled it from the tax.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I realized that there's one that's rebates and the tax credits one that. So this is where I started looking at all these, checking the links for the federal tax credits and incentives. And there's 3 of them that we used to have. See those 3. Now they all go to the same place. So I think they used to be different pages, but I did find the new link. Again, it was a weird underscore moved to a dash. Like, took me 5 minutes to realize that's the same link. Symbol change. Like, why is it not working? So still some work to do to figure out which ones are still relevant. And again, maybe just simplify to the one page where they have them all instead of multiple options. We still have the link for the big database. I did not check that link. And then is this what you're talking about, the Barrington
Yeah,
solar tax exemption?
That went to the town page.
It does.
And the part about the solar exemption is way down near the bottom of the page. Is there a way to actually bring you to that point in the document? Or at least if it's the one that the Sol Smart people were pointing at.
That I'm not sure. I mean, you can.
You can specify an offset somehow.
I think it's in the document itself, the URL itself, you have to make like a jump
Yeah,
link.
I know you can do it, but I have no idea.
Yeah, because that tax exemption document is not one of our documents.
Right.
It's the town document.
Right. You don't have to worry about this stuff. This is the kind of thing where either when we have someone new to take over or when we hand it off to, I find it hard to believe that anyone that the town is paying is going to do all this stuff for us, but maybe.
So exemption, now I do. I was always like, this is sort of annoying that I have to pay extra.
You're not going to get rich off of it. Let me.
No, I know, but I'm like, I didn't even know about it. All right.
Yeah, so still some things to just double check on there. And then I started a new page. This is Word doc draft. For education.
Oh, it's there. Okay.
It just looks funky because it's.
Yeah, because the lower part is the education stuff, right? But for homeowners and business owners, or is it all?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't scroll some just extra space that doesn't show the title.
Okay.
So we had talked about ways to split it up. Like homeowners, business owners, kids or teachers. I found that a lot of the homeowners and business owners were like 2 in 1. So they would just kind of go together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. A lot of this stuff doesn't separate it. So.
And then the teachers and the kids, I started working on that. One that was like, I think, aimed at kids. The other 3 were aimed at teachers. And then the other category I didn't get around to was electric vehicles. That's one of those topics. Again, we saw in the survey, people aren't that interested in doing things for electric vehicle charging stations and whatnot, but great to learn about more if we get a couple.
We
people on
need
it.
to have that in the education section, because the fact of the matter is that people are going, we may be hitting a blip for the next 4 years, but market pressures are going to cause people to shift over. There's just, that is not going to
And we
go
could
back.
put like the school bus stuff under here and just as,
Yeah,
food for thought.
we can.
um,
And haven't found, like, at least for the school bus stuff, we haven't found the articles that we need to put in there, because we do want to emphasize the health benefits of that. And there isn't a whole lot on that I found.
right, well, that was about it. I didn't touch the news and announcements area. Those, whenever a new article is posted, the old one does fall off, but they're all available still. Like when you go into the history, which I think is fine.
Those are just links, right? So they don't take up a lot of space.
Right, they're like little web pages. But yeah, so I have a login to update the town website. I think I can see other pages too, but I don't touch those things.
You took a picture, so on that.
So I figured.
When the town websites get spammed, we know where to look.
So I think with all the pages being established, I'll at least get that new education page established. I think it should be easy enough for the town people to update it, unless someone wants to take it over. I was going to make a how-to document, but it seemed that no one had interest in doing it, so I wouldn't have waste my time.
It really is more, if we can find someone who, I would like to know what skills people need to have to take over what you've been doing, because I would like to look for that in new members of the committee. I don't know if it's realistic to find it. I would consider taking it over, but I don't have time.
So my husband is a web developer. He did the website for the Barrington Library Foundation, which presumably is winding down. So it's someone who could.
Are you volunteering your husband?
I've not asked him yet, but I do have some.
Help.
Well, so what he does for the library is I don't know if this would work at all, but he doesn't go to all the meetings, but the president sends him to do this stuff so he's not like what do you call it, or whatever. So, but that's a 501c3, and this is obviously a town thing. So one maybe possibility was if he was an alternate and he was coming once a month or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to ask him, but
It's all
but he should
possible that
definitely
we
do
could
this.
do an alternate feed to him. He wouldn't necessarily have to come to meetings. We could agree at the meetings what we wanted to see changed on the website and just sort of submit it to him.
That's how they do it with the library.
Okay.
Just because he's got more time constraints than, coming twice a month, I guarantee you, he'd be like, oh, hell no.
It seems like we get it to where he doesn't have to come at all.
Right.
I mean, if he's willing to do the edits, we can send him a list of edits, have a form that we use for edits, give him a document if he's willing to do it.
Would you like me to ask him?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's a skilled web developer.
He's really good at it, yeah.
And I picked it up. I've used other like HTML and
So
systems like that. So
you have
figure it
needed
out.
to know that for what you're doing
I
here.
mean, kind of. Plus a little trial and error.
Yeah. Well-
I would say if you're looking for someone like, and you want someone probably to take the minutes, or
I'm
you do
hoping that this will
transcribing.
solve the minutes issue.
Okay. I would just maybe put that up there.
And Roger Gingrich had expressed interest in joining, correct?
He had,
And he has definitely taken minutes for if that doesn't work out well, he does a good job of that. If that was a need.
Is he retired?
He's retired, yes.
Okay.
So
Or I'm fake retired. I'm fake retired.
I won't be giving up my license yet until I finish what I showed you guys. Then I'll tell them to transfer it to.
Which licenses do you have?
So I have a login to the website.
Right.
I have a Microsoft account as well through the town.
I was thinking of taking that over, but I might have changed my mind about that.
I think it's easy enough to get if you decide to do another survey or something, like just ask for it again. It was like $12 a month.
No, the reason I was thinking it over was because of the incompatibilities between LibreOffice and Microsoft Office. And I have problems because this doesn't always handle the transition smoothly, and that has led to some issues. But I don't think it's.
So I think I'm ready to relinquish that. I was going through the old survey data that I have and removing emails and we call it PII, Privacy World. And I'll give you the final results for that. I think that was it.
Okay.
I think any draft minutes that everyone has a copy of anyways to have as an example.
Yeah, there's plenty of those.
Yeah. Plenty.
Okay, thank you, Leah.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to get all that done?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you guys liked everything, if I go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Thank you, minus a few pictures and stuff.
So you have an idea that that was probably a lot of work.
I did spend my way. No, I had worked on it before. I've worked on it a few different times, but no, this was a good way to contribute.
Well, thank you for everything you've done. You will be sorely missed.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, Jim, time to attack Jim.
Uh-oh.
Cindy, have at it.
It's not an attack. It's just an inquiry. I think it's really important that somebody from the Energy Committee is sort of involved as an advisory capacity on the rec building. Part of the way my understanding is that they got the grant for it was because the energy audit that was done by us showed how sort of not good that building was from an energy standpoint. And that therefore it really justified grant money to rehab it. We would talk about me reaching out to Jessica Tennis and just being like, hey, can we come sit at these meetings and just.
Connor would be the one to talk to.
Connor's the one to talk to.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's the one to talk to.
But are there meetings now?
We haven't had a meeting in 2 months. They haven't got their ducks in a row yet for us to have a meeting about, what we haven't decided what we'll be able to do with the money we have. That's the gist of it, really.
When you
We
say
haven't got
they
hard
haven't,
figures or estimates, good estimates yet.
so when you say they haven't gotten their ducks in a row, is this the general?
Carino, yes,
It's
the general
Carino.
contractor, Carino.
Okay.
But I mean, even like what the scope of work is like.
We don't know the total scope of work at this time. What we can afford, what we have money for.
So I guess what was requested from the contractor? Was it like, what can you do for $1 million? Or like, I mean.
We've thrown out a bunch of things that we want to do,
uh,
but they have to get estimates or close figures of
Sure,
what it's gonna
sure.
cost. And then we have to go down through, they gave us a budget of $1.6 million or something like that, originally. And we don't have that kind of money, so there's things we're gonna have to cut out. But they were getting harder numbers for us, better
Okay.
numbers for us,
But
and they haven't done that yet.
was any of the requested work like improving the envelope or?
It's, well, the wall, the famous wall that.
Yes, the famous wall.
Is key point of that, yes.
Okay,
Food pantry.
The roof is a part of it.
yeah, that's
Food
that's
pantry
good
is
too.
not
The
part
roof
of
was bad, if I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, EVAC systems
Yep.
heating systems, air quality systems.
So
That's
that
all.
at least is in the proposed, hopefully we can do it scope of work.
Yeah.
Okay,
But we don't have hard figures or even
Right.
close estimates.
Yeah, I get
put it
that.
way.
I get that. I just was like, to some extent, if you don't even ask for the insulation to be addressed, well, then it's probably not gonna get addressed,
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be brought up to code at least. I would
The
guess.
wall, the insulation of that wall will be addressed, yes.
And I guess the main point here is that there has to be a forum at some point where this stuff is discussed and decisions are made.
At a meeting,
How can we make sure that we're included in that group?
that would have to be through Connor.
Okay. So,
Connor is pretty much our chairman. I mean, he's our chairman. He runs the show.
okay, so in that case, would it be more appropriate for that message to come from you, or do you want me to reach out to Connor? I don't
That
care.
would
I just,
probably be more appropriate.
Okay. got it. Get rid of this draft. So I do not sign
Somebody
it.
could send it to me,
Yeah.
and then I wouldn't have to think about it as much. Of course, I'll just have ChatGPT think about it.
We've been hearing for a few weeks, so we're gonna have a meeting, but they haven't got their ducks in a row yet for us to have a meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're off the hook.
Yeah, that was painless.
Okay, let me,
When is the deadline for completion?
The project won't be started until probably July, something like that, maybe even August. I mean, we're talking about August right now. I mean, we've gotten behind in some ways, and we
Yeah,
had to wait for the library too, to be out of there. And then summer programs come into play. So I think it's gonna be
It's
more
very
like August before we
Logistically
start.
complicated,
Yeah.
yeah. And is it a projected timeline of?
We haven't got the projected completion date yet.
Is there a
It all
deadline by
depends on
which
when
it
we
has
actually
to be
start. I don't believe so. I know they've
Because at
extended.
first there was a really it has to be done by this date and it was
Yeah,
tight.
they extended that, and I think they extended it for a year, I believe it was.
Okay, so there is a deadline.
There's a deadline
Yeah.
somewhere, but I think it's been extended by a year, I believe,
Okay,
so.
wow,
But I don't see us getting going until August.
really?
There may be something happening, but it won't be anything major. It's fine. They have, once the library's out of there, you've got, they're gonna be moving in June, it looks like.
Right,
But then the summer camp series is going on,
Mhm.
and they need facilities, either upstairs or downstairs or both.
at the rec center, they
Yeah,
do stuff in the.
they have,
Oh,
I don't know, 150, 200 kids campers.
no, they
whatever you
have
call it.
they have an amazing program for
Yeah.
working families where there is
Yeah.
availability of care for kids.
Yeah.
That's
If
pretty
you-
affordable.
If you register within the first hour, that's.
Yes, you have to
Yes,
be,
they
yeah,
have a-
no, for real, no, I remember
I got
that,
my
yeah.
kids in, but.
And I don't know how much I know there's a certain amount of kids that can be in the program.
Right,
You
so
know.
they need access to the building for
Well,
whatever.
bad weather,
Yeah.
thunderstorms.
That's right,
or
thunderstorms.
yeah.
Anything like that, they need a place for the kids to be.
I mean, 95% of the
is,
time it is
Yeah,
outside.
but
They-
except when
Yeah.
there's problem, and like I think maybe, yeah, I can't remember, it was hot days that are
There'd be
heat
days
index.
that are
Yeah.
hot,
Yeah.
Right, that did-
Fans.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some kind of construction that was gonna be going on a covered facility for
That's
that?
done.
Yeah, that's done.
Oh, it
That was
is?
probably started last August.
So
Covered
will that
facility.
cover for if the
Oh.
weather's, I
Well,
realize
the
it's not.
pavilion's done,
Yeah, that is.
I don't think
but
that's.
that's not a
No.
structure for a thunderstorm or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, rain or something like that, but not severe weather,
I see.
possible severe.
So I don't think it's big enough to have all the kids under it.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't know what its
Shoulder
capacity
to
is.
shoulder.
Yes, the other question is, do you really want the kids in the rec center if we're having a severe weather event?
Well, so in the library, at least there's air conditioning, it's not just a hot
Yeah.
fan blowing hot air around.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we're not gonna solve those issues, but I will get in touch with Connor and try to make sure that he realizes that we need to be included whenever they do eventually have a meeting. So you said you think it might start in August.
That's the latest date that I've heard would be August.
That's sort of a year's delay, isn't it? Because it was supposed to be done originally by August.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Okay.
But
The library.
yeah.
No, the rec center.
Yeah, but I mean the library.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the library had to get out of there for one thing,
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
that
right.
renovated.
Well,
And they talked
originally,
about starting on the wall first and do that. That may not happen because of the kids' availability to use the gym. They need to have that big space in case of something, you know? So they probably won't start on that wall, you know, till August.
Okay.
originally they were gonna kick the library out before we were ready to move to.
That was a proposal.
Yep.
And that's no
Wasn't a
longer
good
what's
proposal,
being
let's
planned.
put it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, now that they have the extension, it's not,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be like, which, because it causes all kinds of problems, like what do you do with the library?
Yeah,
After
no,
you
I-
Fire them, I mean, you know.
yeah.
Well, and where do you put the books for,
Yeah.
for the temporary solution and all, I know
No.
that was a big problem.
No,
Well, so, the food pantry's a disaster too. I wonder if we could spend a little time trying to figure out how to finagle something getting done there,
so, well,
because it is a mess.
That's part of the.
You been upstairs,
that's
huh?
part of the proposal.
What?
you been upstairs?
No, the
Oh.
downstairs off the back, are they changing that, or is it still staying off the back of the building there?
Oh, it's gonna stay off the back of the building,
So
yeah.
they're not doing anything with that,
No,
yeah, that's a train wreck.
Tiny.
That wasn't that included in the audit?
no.
It was included
Oh,
in the
we
audit.
bought it, yes,
But it's not
It was
included
none
in
of that
the-
but
plan.
it's not part of the grant.
No, because the grant is just for the rec.
Yeah.
Facility, so,
And as I understand, the food pantry has some money too.
Oh, really?
That's what I've been told.
Oh, well, we should
So,
mess around with
but-
that.
Well, I mean, this should be included in the conversation about the modifications to the rec center, because it doesn't make sense to have part of the building being left in, as this, basically. a
is it all
trash
on the same heat system, or do they have their own heap system? And
That has its
They've
own
got a different cooling system. They've got,
water heaters.
they've got,
Who's in charge of?
Mini splits. Stan Bowden. Awful
I'll
problem.
bring this up when I talk, when I bring it up with Connor
Yeah.
and suggest that group needs to be included in this conversation, because especially if when you said they have money,
I've been told that the food pantry has money, you know, whether it's a trust or capital reserve or checking account or something like that, they have funds.
but is it,
Because there was talk at one point about building a garage,
right?
and they would have half the garage, and they would be part of that money to build that garage. They
Oh,
would use
really?
that,
So
they would
these
move
were-
out of where they are.
Okay, they were actually funds for facilities, it wasn't to purchase food or.
I
to-
understood it was, they could use it on
Okay.
facility. That's the way I understood it.
Okay,
But I haven't talked to Stan about this. This is third-hand information.
he should be included in the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
I really don't want to get into a separate conversation with him, independent of what's going on at the rec center. I don't
Yeah.
think it makes sense. But, okay, would you, I have a couple of requests. Would you send me his name?
I sent you his name in.
And I need those electric bills.
Oh, yeah.
Have you get them next round yet?
What's that?
Have you got them next round yet?
Yes.
Electric bills.
And I believe I have the town hall one for you. So,
Oh, good. That's all I need is a town hall. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah,
jump.
it's very good.
It wasn't-
Like, I forget.
it wasn't very good.
Okay. You can send those to me when you got them.
Yeah, I'd have to scan them.
them.
I can't scan them, so
Okay.
someone else will have to scan them to you.
This is the. Broken, okay.
Spoke.
So Doug sent me this article. This is related to what I was talking about with you, that some of the rulings that have come down are requiring that funds that have already been allocated be dispersed. And this had a nice listing of what was included in that at the bottom, in spite of the fact that it's sort of cut off at the end here. If you copy the link, it works for some reason. And I went into this, I was looking at a few things, like these two grants sound like they're the same thing. They're very similar in numbers, and I tried to find out more information. And this website, the energy.gov website, is becoming more and more unreliable as time goes by. I tried looking for some of the things that we would have been concerned with in that. So we have this. So for example, this is the web page, and it's basically and I decided, well, I want to look at this area. I think that was it. And so I figured I wanted to see what home upgrades would be. So there's how to claim a rebate, check status, and boom, it takes you right back where you started.
Takes that at the end, got the steps.
So.
Yeah.
It's not all like that. I happen to be lucky. That was the first thing I decided to look at, and it was like that. So if I realized that I went to some other things, and the energy saving tips actually does take you to some energy saving.
Yeah, I think that
tips.
the existing energy.gov URLs don't work, and bringing that back to that homepage, have to refine them.
That maybe that was it. Let's get back there and see. I
Say, oh,
checked
it's
on
on
that. Will it tell me what the link is? Oh, yeah, it does. You're right. That's supposed to be, you can see the link that it's supposed to be down at the bottom, or what it's trying to go to. And that just goes back to the energy.gov site. So probably that means it was removed, but maybe it was just a dash that was added in the name. Who knows?
So is
I
this
don't know.
because like Doge cut? Like, why is all this stuff so janky?
Well, it's because there has generally been a policy of the administration is pulling any information that government sites have on energy efficiency, renewables, any of that.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
So it's hard to know if we're seeing a
Yeah.
bug such as the one you ran into, where they just changed the URL slightly. So a link is broken, or if something has actually been removed. And how do you know? This is the only way that they've given us to get to the rebates, and it doesn't work. Now I could sort of poke around in the dark and see what I could find.
Yeah, I understand the problem now, thank you.
But so there is stuff here that still works. I think part of our problem is that it's a moving target.
Yeah.
So beware. There's nothing we can do about it. It's the government that our population and its imminent wisdom put in place. And that was, did you want to say anything else about this?
Not really. I mean, it's a few weeks old.
So the school bus
Remember all.
program was on there though, no?
There is, but it's only for fiscal years 2022 and 2023.
I was like, I got all excited.
Yeah, but there's an existing program. I mean,
That the state might be funded on. So this is sort of up to the state.
Okay,
I've only heard of one community where they were actually implementing it. It's Derry. Some other article I saw somewhere.
Yeah, no, there's, was it, there's were a few.
Henniker, the bus that we rode was
Henniker.
Yeah,
And I thought one of the big towns or cities in the south was.
Concord was supposedly gonna do it.
Okay.
That's what, I think it was Concord that we were told was going that route. But I don't know how far that process was.
Yeah.
You know.
Once again, I think we're gonna have to acknowledge it's very unlikely that we would make it because the first step that we have to do is to educate the school board, the populace.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Long
But
road.
maybe by 2028.
Right.
Done.
Yeah, actually, that's
I mean, you gotta plan ahead. You know.
we're in 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
So, but, yeah, you're right. So it's a good time for education, which means we need a web developer.
Or even April 2nd. Let's not be too pessimistic.
Well,
Anyway,
I know that's
Doug,
a pipe
anything
dream.
else new?
doesn't mean they're gonna fix everything.
No. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
No.
Okay, well, that was it for me then. Actually, so the events, we do have that Salt
Yep,
Sweat
that's on my
kickoff on the
calendar.
27th. I'll send you this information.
27th of.
Oh, if you want
Like next
to,
week.
I'm gonna meet, excuse me, I'm gonna meet Vanessa here for that meeting, so you should realize this too. And we're gonna just
Okay.
put it up on here.
I'm at the shelter that morning, so I'll be
Oh,
on
okay.
my phone probably at the shelter on my lunch break or something, but
I can.
do you know how long the meeting is?
It's not that long, right?
You really need to get up to speed on this, I guess.
Well, me too.
I've been ignoring it, this snow's been too good.
So take a minute. It has not crashed.
27th.
I think it's an hour and a half.
Okay,
Yeah, an hour and a half.
Okay.
So that meeting is on the
What
27th,
time?
at noon. They also sent out a thing, they're gonna be holding office hours weekly, after that meeting starts. And they're always on Thursdays at 12:30. I'm assuming that we'll have lots of questions from this first meeting, and it's sort of to deal with, it's for a discussion as we work through this whole process. There's a lot
So-
of pieces to this.
one week the meeting's at 12 and then the next week there's office hours at
The
12:30.
kickoff meeting, so this is one of there's 4 big meetings.
Yes.
Those apparently will start at noon. The office hours are weekly and they're not as long. They're probably more discussion based. And those start at 12:30. I don't
But
really,
weekly, but not on the meet, they wouldn't coincide with the meeting, they said, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Okay,
and our next meeting is on April 3rd. And that is everything I've got.
Okay.
You were confused, Jim.
I'm just wondering,
how many members are required for this board?
I don't know that there is a requirement.
Oh, okay,
But we need to get Rob re-signed up.
Let's get Roger if he'll do it. Roger would be great.
And, yeah, depending on what happens with your recommendations on a skill set, well, and with your husband.
so the other person is
I think it's someone like good, comfortable with computers.
Yeah.
Diane St. Jean, she does all the marketing stuff on Conlover. She does Facebook for her. I know, but we really should have that.
Yeah, no, I just leave me out of it.
No, I literally never used Facebook. I would volunteer to learn it. For this.
I can do it. I just have to be careful of what I say.
Well, I think it would only be.
Company page.
You are not that.
Having a
fan.
conflict
I
of
know
interest.
you well.
No, not me.
Diane is very lovely.
It would be.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
contributed, like, and she does amazing graphic design too. Like,
Yep.
she just has this skill set.
Have
that-
you spoken to her about this?
No, I was bringing these to the president, so
Well, give me contact information and I will get.
I will contact
I
my.
have Roger's.
What else? What other committees is Diane on?
I,
Library?
I think she's on Friends of the Library as well as but those need to merge and need to be done. That's silliness, but anyways.
You're writing a note.
I'm writing to you. Because otherwise I'll forget.
I sent you
That's fine.
email too, Paul.
Did you? I
Did you
can't bring up
scan
my
me?
email or that will
Oh.
bollocks this whole presentation.
I gave you his name.
Okay.
I don't have his phone number right off the bat here.
Very good. I think that is it. If no one has any other issues to bring up, we can adjourn. Very good. Thanks, everyone.